Hello, hello, team. All right, let's get right into it. Welcome to the Trading Trail. This is the series where I go ahead and recap every single day trade that I take for the entire year of 2025. Currently, we are on day 14 of the stock market being open, and I'm happy to report it's another successful green day. Unfortunately, it's a small green day. I made a lot of mistakes today, but nonetheless, we were able to finish green. Now, there were plenty of opportunities, but this is going to even though today was a green day, mentally I'm treating today like it was a red day. I'm very upset. Now, the reason I say that is because I have to learn to trust myself. There were plenty of setups where I had multiple reasons why I shouldn't trade that setup, and guess what I did? I traded it anyways. So we can go ahead and get right into the first trade now. Quickly on today's record up here, I played 6 different stocks, green on 2 of them, and red on 4. In reality, I only needed to trade one of them. One of them was the better looking setup, and that was on VNCE. First trade on it was a small little red trade, and then it started to reverse up, showing that larger move. Again, VNC was my personal pick for trade of the day. There were some other stocks like today we had one stock that went up 800%. And that's a phenomenal move, but unfortunately, we weren't really able to capture that, and it was setting up later in the day. I had already walked away from the monitor, so I'm not going to get FOMO on missing out on that. It's still a really good chart to study, but I want to go ahead and pick apart the stocks that I was looking at today because there's a lot of learning opportunities just in the stocks in the 6 trades that I took today. 6 different stocks I took today. So first stock that I was trading into 7 in the morning was this nice looking setup. And this was again on VNCE. This was the first trade, and unfortunately, I think it was like a small break even trade. I think it was a little red, but nonetheless, it was showing for a pretty good setup. So we had a nice downtrend formed right here, and then we had finally the break of the downtrend right here. And then I am loading as I see prices holding that 10 EMA on the 1. And then I do end up taking some profit off the table up here. And I was, again, trying to hold for that bigger move, and I'm actually selling shares down here. So the fact that I held so long on those final shares meant that this trade went from a $200 winner to a basically flat break even trade. Because again, I would have had an average from around here, and I was selling at a loss with the remaining of my shares down here, closer to that 10 EMA on the 5. Now my thought process was price being able to hold somewhere within this area close to the support of the downtrend and then start to make that move higher. Now, hindsight is 2020, of course, but we want to see a price break above and hold above somewhere in this area to then start showing for that larger move. Now, one of the other reasons why I'm so disappointed on this move is mainly because of the 7 a.m. attention. We didn't have any 7 a.m. attention on this one. So it was quite unfortunate that we didn't get that larger move after 7 a.m. and creating some bigger moves. Now, the fact that we found such a big resistance up here might have also meant that we were too early on this setup. So again, I picked this one out for good reason. It had a smaller float, good volume was already stepping in into 7 in the morning. So I should have maintained focus on it into some of the later setups. There were many reasons not to trade any of the other stocks that I trade right after this one. Every stock after this one, I probably shouldn't have traded. VNC was the winner today. And quite honestly, I had a feeling it was going to be the winner at 7 in the morning. We were just too early. Now, the next trade that I decided to take was on HKPD. This one was a little bit more difficult. A little bit more difficult for sure. So this one, as it's setting up, again, this is where I need to learn to trust myself, more importantly than anything. And the reason I say that is because today I was trading in Sensei's Trend Traders Lounge. I was in a voice channel and I was calling out things live in front of a lot of other traders in that Discord. And one of the things that I was saying into this setup is we can't really trust this break of 3.91 because, again, we've got this resistance here, this resistance here. We can't trust this break of 3.91 because it's simply extended from the 10 EMA on the 5. And what do? I trade it anyways. Like, I'm calling out to the team, do not trade this. Do not be like me. And of course, of course, I'm going to take a massive loss on that one. So this is just a big question mark. I honestly don't know what I was deciding to try and do here, but this is just pure FOMO of me not being able to control my own emotions. So, yeah, I've got no excuses on this one. I really have to learn to trust myself. I was calling out to the rest of the team. We can't really trust this one, especially because it is so far extended from our 10 EMA on the 5. Like, this is untradeable. Quite literally untradeable. Now, of course, you're probably asking yourself, well, Noah, why didn't you decide to take that 391 break? Again, price is so far extended from that 391. And I really wanted to price to kind of trade sideways a little bit more in here on top of that 357 resistance. If it finds and builds a much better support in here, I wanted then a break through that 391 after it's helping pull up this 10 EMA on the 5 and then makes that rocket ship move. We never saw that. And I was calling this out to the team. I was like, you know what? This is going to be hard to trust because it's just simply too early based on where the 10 EMA on the 5 is. And I trade it anyways. I gotta start learning to trust myself. I really have to. Like, I'm calling out to the team, saying that we shouldn't trust this one just yet, and I still trade it. And guess what I do on the next one? MCTR. This one is perplexing. This one is very perplexing. So, first, I'm going to kind of zoom in right here. This is the quotes for MCTR. Now, one thing I do want to mention, I took this screenshot about 20 minutes ago. So, this is the entire volume that it got throughout the entire day. This is the free float. When we were trading it at, 7 in the morning, I think it was like 7:15 that I was trading it. What was it? Yeah, 7:45. We were trading it into 7:45. The volume at this point in the day, I remember calling it out to the team where it was less than 1.2 million volume. Why am I trading this? Why am I trading this? I've got to ask myself so many times. I called it out to the team many, many times where I was like, this setup is going to be so much more difficult to trust just based off of this. If the free float is 2.00 million and the current volume on it was, what did I say, 1.2 million? How can you trust this setup? There's no argument to trust such a low volume setup that's already trading up like 30-40%. It really doesn't make sense. This is an entire sketchy look in my opinion. And I was calling it out to the team where I was like, you know what? I don't think it's going to be able to make that larger move just yet. And that's exactly what happened. Now, at the same time, this is a great setup for a nice little downtrend break. And I do end up playing this one. This one was a very small loss, if I recollect correctly. No, it was actually a win, believe it or not. So I think I remember calling out to the team where I was like, you know what? I think I was able to walk away with profits on this one, but in hindsight, even though it was a winning trade, I do not think you should trade this by any means because the volume in here is so sketchy. So sketchy. No volume. Going forward, I think it's going to be very difficult for me to trust any stock that's setting up on volume that's smaller than its free float. Because again, if we go back to that relationship of supply and demand, how do you trust something that hasn't been able to rotate its float? If we compare that to some of the bigger winners today, like for example, DWTX, that was the leading, that was the stock that went up like 800% today. So that stock has about a 1 million float and 103 million volume on the day. 10x its float. So a stock that went up 800% on the day had a 1 mil float and a 100 million volume. So with this relationship, this float right here has been rotated 10 times. This relationship sucks. It hasn't even been able to rotate the float one time. So it's literally trading on 0.5 of a turnover compared to the better stock. Now, of course, some of these numbers are, of course, like hindsight 2020. Like it's not the best one-to-one comparison here, but it's just like I was calling it out to the team. I was aware of this fact that it was going to be sketchier to trade, and again, I still trade it even though I was telling myself not to. That's the more important part in this. Of I'm telling myself not to, and I'm like, you know what? I can scalp it. What are you doing? Come on, man. Come on, you're better trading than that. Apparently not, because I still traded it. But we're gonna get better. We're gonna get better. Now, MCTR, we trade this one. I think I trade that one a few more times, like little scalps. I don't know what I'm doing. But VNCE is the much bigger winner later on. Again, we had this one found out super early in the morning just based off of its float, the volume that was stepping in. We tried to attack it back here, and then of course it's showing setups for a 3.88 break and then also a 4 break, and all of these are also lining up with some key downtrend breaks. So what ends up happening, and huge thanks to Jenny, by the way, if you're listening to this, I'd high five you right now if possible. But you kind of gave me the extra confidence because I kind of was beating myself up for being red on the day after 2 failed attempts on me telling myself not to trade it and then trading it anyways. So right into this kind of part in the morning, I was very emotionally hijacked, and I probably didn't have the confidence to actually trade this one if no one else was calling it out. So thank you very much, Jenny. I do greatly appreciate it. But I'm loading in some shares down here, and then I also add larger size in at that 4 break, and then I'm holding for that larger move, and then I'm scaling out massively into that 5 resistance, and then I'm closing my position right here. Then later on, it's showing room for a 467 break. I'm playing this one with much smaller size because I was like, you know what? We're not going to ruin a red to green day. We are not going to do that whatsoever. So playing it with smaller size, that even if this was my max loss, I'm still green on the day. You know, that was going to emotionally get me back in the correct headspace. So I played this one for a 467 break, and I loaded some shares right here with the intention of cutting below that loss, that recent low right there, and then scaling out on that first move, and then holding some for the 10-1, and then I think I had a trailing stop in right there. But in reality, you know, I could have just kept holding for the 10-5, but quite a phenomenal trade. Maybe I could have scalped, sold some more shares up here. But again, I was playing with much smaller size. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to let the trade do its thing. My trailing stop is in. No worries. No worries. It's easy from here. So VNCE was definitely the winner on the day. Now, one other thing I do want to talk about is HEPA. Man, oh man, am I upset about this one. You guys have no clue. So there's many different reasons on why I'm upset about HEPA. But more importantly, is into the morning, it was showing a dead cat bounce setup that was pretending to be a gap fill, which I hate. I love gap fills. I don't like playing dead cat bounces. And I'm mentally aware of this fact going into this trade. So HEPA, this chart right here is a daily chart. And notice, I want you to point out these levels. This is the previous day's open at like 14 cents. Then look at this. This is a nice little gap fill from about 14 cents all the way up to that 28-cent range. So we were trading in this area, and price finds some massive resistance here at the 20-cent level. Massive resistance. And we're going to go to the 1 minute just so you guys can actually see that. And here we go. Massive resistance at this 20 level. Absolutely massive resistance. Now, one thing that I was calling out, I was like, you know what? Sure, the daily EMA is all the way up here at 52. Normally, we look for a break and hold of one EMA to show room to the next, and then the next, and then the next, and then the next, right? So Any trader that's just looking based off of the EMAs is going to be like, you know what, it's got room all the way up to 52 cents because that's where that 200 EMA is. But we have to look at the bigger picture. Wait, oh, I'm looking at the wrong one. Sorry. So the 10 EMA on the daily is right here, 36, and then we would look for the break of every single move higher. So 50 EMA would have been at 53. So really, you're kind of looking for this gap fill on the 28 up to 28 cents. But we have to look at that bigger picture, which can kind of be found on this 4-hour chart right here. So this 4-hour chart, this starts to really resemble that dead cat bounce. This is a dead stock. Absolutely dead stock. I mean, a few days ago it was trading around 50 cents and it's all the way jackknifed all the way down to 12 cents. And it's bottomed out at 10 cents. This is a dead company in my books, or it is for now until they make some changes. But this is ugly, ugly, ugly action. Now, what a dead cat bounce is after this aggressive selling, once price finally finds a support, then, quite literally, like a dead cat or a corpse, bounces off of concrete and then gets a nice little pop above and a nice little move into profits. So it's bouncing off of this support down here. Now, this on a 4-hour chart is a dead cat bounce. If you are only looking at this daily chart, sure, it starts to resemble that gap fill all the way up to this previous resistance up at 28. So this is kind of what I was talking about of it's a dead cat bounce that's pretending to be a gap fill. So right away, I was calling this out to the team and I'm like, it just doesn't look like a good chart to trade just based off of this 4-hour time frame. It doesn't look safe to trade whatsoever. Now we're going to go one chart above. I'm calling like the word for word what I was saying in the Traders Lounge this morning. Let's look at this idiot to try to trade it 5 minutes after saying that. I've got to learn to trust myself more. That's all that I need to take away from this trading session. I need to learn to trust myself. I'm literally saying to the team, do not trade this. Don't do it. Don't be like me. Just based off of the fact that we've had this such aggressive selling off, and we've already gotten that completion from that dead cat bounce. Now, truthfully, if we pull up HEPA, look at this. It does get that move later on in the day up to 28 cents and actually kind of closing that fair value gap all the way up to like 32 cents, but I digress. I'm calling out to the team that it's not really ready to trade. And even if in the morning, I was like, even if it goes up to 28 cents, it doesn't really mean that we should trade it right now. If it does it later on in the day, that's great. That was a great trade. But trying to force a trade on HEPA and trying to force this gap fill on a setup that's not a gap fill, I want to make that apparent. It wasn't really a gap fill. It was a dead cat bounce. So it's like, why am I forcing trades up here? Like, I'm not even going to go really into the entries because they were worthless, right? Because I shouldn't have even been trading. I shouldn't have even been trading it. I knew and deep down in this morning that we should have kept focus on the nicer, cleaner looking setup that was VNCE, and we just caught it a little bit too early. But since we got that rejection at 7 in the morning, I was like, kind of a deer in the headlights. I was like, maybe I don't know anything. Maybe I need to go FOMO into all the other ugly looking setups. Just because there's nothing else setting up on a C tier setup does not make it an A tier setup. VNCE was the A tier stock this morning. HEPA was a C minus. If that, I'd probably give it a below that, if I had to be honest. It's a cheaper penny stock. We normally don't trade those. We like to trade those 90-cent to a dollar cent penny stocks, where your risk to reward is a little bit better. Why am I trading this? And for that, I think I'm going to leave it on that note. We have to learn to trust ourselves as a day trader, and I'm going to look to do that into tomorrow's trading session of really doing everything that I can to narrow my focus down. I think I would love in the future, maybe the next few weeks, next few trading trails, I would absolutely love to get this number a little bit lower. It only takes one good stock to make it a banger day. Like, let's zoom in here. I'm up $315 on VNC. That's an amazing trade. Amazing series of trades. But my first trade on that one was a red trade. I can't let that scare me away from the better looking setups. I just have to be patient and really start to learn to trust myself. I knew that QNRX, LSH, HKPD, all, let's not forget, HEPA, all trash setups. Trashy setups. But I play them anyways because it's FOMO is one hell of an emotion to try and conquer. But if I was able to be patient and really focus in on VNCE, I mean, $300 day right there. You know, maybe I would have even had more settled funds instead of wasting them on these trashy looking setups. Like, so many different opportunities for me to have really walked away heavy in the green today. Now, there were a lot of moves, profit potential moves today. A lot of them. Now, I've been scrolling through Twitter and I keep hearing people like, the market's so slow. Like, where is this Trump rally? X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, there were plenty of moves today. They were just difficult to find. I don't necessarily believe that the market being difficult to trade doesn't mean that it's not hot. Now, of course, it's easier to trade in a hotter market for sure, but like DWTX, that one went up 800% today. So I will leave you guys with that. Final thoughts. Going into tomorrow, I honestly don't know what to expect. Pre-market was very difficult to trade today. I'm expecting Friday. Fridays are normally the slowest day of the week. Now, let's not forget that this week is a slower week for sure because we had a shorter week as well. Market was closed on Monday. Trump was getting in office, and not to mention MLK. So I would kind of expect Friday to be one of the slower days that we've actually seen this entire week. Yesterday was a phenomenal day. But regardless, we need to attack each day as its own separate trading session, and we will attack tomorrow very, very patiently but optimistic. All right, safe trading, everyone. I hope you were able to finish the day green. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or suggestions for what if I should do weekly or like possibly monthly recaps, leave a comment in the right below. And safe trading, everyone. Have a good day. Bye.